Hey everybody, and
Really,
hey
Pierce?
everybody. Good morning, guys. Good evening here. We are back here for Wrestling with Tragedy, episode 22.
22
Kevin,
episodes in. Do you understand what the term hot mic means?
hot mic, not yet.
It means your mic was on during the intro. We heard you rehearsing your lines.
um, to be
Well,
or
you
not to
put me
be.
straight into the show. You put me straight in like it was like live, and I'm like, oh, well, hi, welcome. And then I started, then I saw the video, I stopped.
The video was playing before I put you in. Anyway.
No, you put me in. Should we start
Okay.
again? Or what do you
No.
No, this is perfect.
We'll watch it back.
This is the blooper reel, man.
This is crazy. But guys, welcome back to Wrestling with Tragedy. I am Piers Austin, and once again, I am joined by Angel Medina and Kevin Rodriguez, aka Juan Strowman. Get these tacos. That will be a shirt one day. But before we get into today's episode, I just want to take a quick second, a quick pause for the cause, if you will, to pay some respect to our sponsors. First up is A-Rock Designs. You can find them on Facebook. My good friend Ashley Rodriguez, Kevin's beautiful wife, she makes amazing.
He thinks they're friends.
Oh, that's pretty harsh, man. But she makes amazing cups, tumblers, hoodies, keychains, t-shirts, you name it, they make it. She can design it. They made me this awesome CM Punk custom cup. I absolutely love it.
If you just don't uncover the face, then we can see it.
But you can pick up any of these cups or any type of merchandise you like over at A-Rock Designs, and you'll deal with Ashley. She has amazing customer service, and she has an amazing product at a reasonable price. So head over there on Facebook and check out A-Rock Designs. Next on our sponsorship list is Wasif Championship Belts.
What's up?
What's up? If you are looking for a championship belt, then you need to look no further. Like every wrestling fan in the world, guys, either owns a championship belt or wants to own a championship belt. Would you agree, guys? Like seriously, like everyone.
I concur.
Fuck belts.
Moving right along. But if you're wanting a championship belt at affordable prices, head over to Wasif Championship Belts. You get an amazing product. This guy is absolutely one of the top belt makers in the world. Now, on to our third sponsor, which is the Cicadas with their song Restriction, which they provide for us on every episode for our intro video. So we appreciate that, boys. Make sure you check out Cicadas Band on Facebook and YouTube. So, guys, tonight...
Angel, we can't trust him to do anything, can we?
Pierce, let me ask you a question. We're the ones up at 5 a.m, and you're the ones stuttering through this whole...
I'm having a rough day. But look, guys, let's get into it. So today we're going to be discussing the Von Erich family. So for any wrestling fans out there that don't know who the Von Erich family are, the patriarch was Fritz Von Erich, who was a very well-known star in the Texas area in the 50s and 60s, who owned the WCCW. His sons were also wrestlers. But that family comes with a lot of tragedy and a lot of really hard
times.
A lot of hard times behind this family. Fritz had 6 sons, 5 of them passed before he did. So, that really, man, that's a really hard pill to swallow as a parent to have to go through something like that. But today we're going to be discussing the Von Erich family, and we're going to be discussing each son in detail and about that passing. So throwing it over to you, Angel, obviously the Von Erichs, they were, wrestling, obviously started to make a name for themselves and in the Texas area were quite well known throughout that. What was your, did you ever have any involvement with the Von Erichs at all? Or did you ever have any run-ins with them or?
No, I never ran into the Von Erichs. The only thing I knew about the Von Erichs, of course, is from their, world class and watching them on TV and WWE Texas Tornado. But I mean, I followed the family for years, but I just never had a pleasure to cross paths with them. They were in Wichita. The sons, not the grandchildren, but the next generation. They came to do a show out here, but I never bumped into them.
So we look at the family, and Fritz von Erich, obviously, a very hard-nosed sort of guy, very well known, very well respected. The family themselves were like
I do
became
appreciate
uber
you
famous.
letting me get my opening thoughts out. Thanks, Piers.
Sorry, I was going to throw it to you in the next statement, Kevin, but I'll let you go for it now.
I'm just here busting some balls early in the morning. But no, when you think of the name of our show, Wrestling with Tragedy, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but there's really no other family that fits that definition, that topic, that demographic more than the Von Erichs. Like you said, Fritz von Erich was a very hard-nosed kind of guy, came up, around the Harley races and stuff like that in a time where the fourth wall was very much protected. It was that old school style of smash mouth wrestling. It wasn't like it is today. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the wrestlers of today, but there was just something about that time period that was very stiff, very strong style, very in your face, like you said, smash mouth kind of wrestling. And anybody who came up in that time or was trained by somebody who came up in that time really knows the difference between the two. But the Von Erichs were the bloodline version of the Four Horsemen, in my opinion. They were absolutely amazing, super talented, ran the territories, just had everything you would want. And it's a very sad and tragic story of what happened with them. And we're like Pierce said, we're going to dive into each son in detail, the facts surrounding the deaths, the suicides, and all that other good stuff. So Pierce, go ahead.
No worries, Kevin. And sorry, I was actually leading into the next part to hand it over to you to have your opening statement. But
Pierce,
we'll get into it now.
Angel, when did he get so soft?
Oh, fuck off.
Have you seen him without a shirt? I mean, I just want some fucking Pillsbury cookies right now.
Fuck off. Okay, guys, listen, settle. Guys, seriously, man, you're putting me on hard times right now.
It's too early, man. I have to throw in the jokes.
Yeah. So the first son that I want to discuss is a son that wasn't known to the wrestling world at all. On March 7th, 1959, Jack Von Erich, age 6 years old, died. He was the elder son of the Von Erichs.
Yeah.
At the time, he was coming back from school, and at the time, Fritz and the family, they lived in almost like a motorhome.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was he came and accidentally got shocked by an exposed cord, like electric shock, and it was the middle of winter, and he fell face first into the snow and drowned to death. That was to say that, after that, we're all parents here. Kevin, you and I have children around that age of Jack Von Erich when he passed. It's, as a parent, that would be the ultimate. It would be the ultimate thing that would crush a human being. And especially
something that way, because you start to ask yourself, where was I? What was I doing? Why wasn't I paying more attention? And all these scenarios go through your mind. And, this show is not about politics, religion, race, or creed, or anything like that. But whatever religion you fall to, I personally believe I have my own beliefs in religion. I believe that there's a reason everything happens, and I believe that no matter what we do as humans, nothing is going to change that plan of what is going to happen. All of our fates are preset by a higher power. I don't want to get on my soapbox and preach about religion, but that's what I believe. So, and if I'm in that situation, you start to throw your beliefs out the window, and you're just like, that wasn't supposed to happen. What was I doing? Where was I at? Why wasn't I paying more attention? Why wasn't I more aware of the situation happening? How long was he laying there hoping that somebody would come help? Well, he was most likely unconscious after being shocked and, laying face down, but that really eats you alive as a parent. And even me, like I said, with my religion and believing in a higher power and believing that there's a plan for everybody and everybody's fate is already predetermined and we're just living out the course of our life. Even knowing that as a Christian man, I don't I would never be able to look at my 6-year-old son if that ever happened and say, okay, that's what was supposed to happen. It would drive me absolutely insane. And I don't know if I don't know if I don't know how I would feel, how I would react. I don't know what I would do in that situation. And to hear something like that, your heart really goes out to him, especially the three of us being fathers.
Yeah.
When your child is born, the thought that crosses every father's head is, I would give my life for this this new life. I would do everything in my power to protect you. And
Yeah.
I feel like I've never lost a child. I don't want to sit here and say that I have. I've never had to experience anything like that. So I don't want to pretend or in any way be disrespectful to the sensitivity of this, but I don't know how I would ever be able to cope or deal with that.
And I agree. I mean, nobody should be bearing. I mean, nobody should be outliving their children. That's 100% pain. The most painful thing that you experience, regardless if your son's 50, 60. I mean, it's just you feel that you should never outlive your children.
Absolutely.
Now, the thing was, of course, this happened in Niagara Falls by Ontario, Canada, when this
Yeah.
incident happened. And now I heard the other stories is that he fell in a puddle when he got electrocuted, and he was, during that time. And Jack Atkinson, that's his real name if fans didn't know. He just was fit. Got electrocuted, like you said, an exposed cord. Which, again, I don't know. That's just crazy that this exposed wiring was out in the open and nobody was really watching his kid. And I understand the kid's 7 years old. He's running around being adventurous. But
you've also got to remember, Angel, it was 1959. Like times were a lot different.
That's exactly what I
Like,
was going to say. I was going to say, it's different times. I can remember being a child and, my parents see my stepfather work night shift. So when he got home during the day, they're like, look, go outside, fucking play. And nobody ever came to check on us for like 7 hours because my stepfather was sleeping. But, now today, you won't let your child go outside for more than 10 minutes without looking at, like, there's a gate in my front yard and my kids have a trampoline and they can go out on the trampoline, but they know not to leave that friggin' gate.
Yeah, that's man. But as you said, Kevin, as well, with what your belief is, I'm not a religious person, and as you said, for what you would go through losing a child at that age and the thoughts that you would go through, I would be absolutely devastated. As you said, we're all fathers here, and to think that your child would go through that and to go like that, it would obviously crush everyone. Even from that, it was said that after the Jack's death, Fritz was never the same, and you can't blame a father for never being the same after that. They said he was still the intimidating Fritz von Erich, but you could tell he didn't want to be here. He was just checked out.
Apparently he was some type of, he held his emotions in. He was not a very emotional person. He was not like a huggy type of feeling person. So when that situation happened, he was distraught, but he kept his head together and didn't really show too much emotion. He was emotional, but not like broken down. He had to be strong. He was Fritz von Erich. He had to keep his head together.
Yeah, but the three of us know, with the jobs we've had, with the life experiences we've had, and just, I would like to think most men in general, we understand what it's like to go through the day, go through the week, go through the month, whatever the case may be, acting one way, but on the inside, you're a completely different person. You're a completely different emotional state. Like it's one I could sit here and talk to you guys all day long about wrestling. I love wrestling, just like all three of us do. But on the inside, I'm falling apart. I'm trying to hold it together. Not saying that I am, but I mean, we've all been there. We've all done that at some point in our life over something that's happened. So to still see him, going through life, doing everything he was known for, and still being the same hard-nosed kind of guy he was, I don't even want to try to think about or imagine what his mindset was, because that's where the real demons lie.
Yeah, that pain and suffering.
Now, for fans out there who didn't know, Fritz von Erich was trained by the legendary Stu Hart. So just to give the fans out there a little history of that. Now, the chronological order of the family was, so people know how the Von Erichs lined up was Jack, Kevin, David, Kerry, Mike, and Chris. So we're going to go, we already did Jack. So this is how they were born, of course, and that's how the lineup is going to be. If you want to.
Yeah, no worries. So the next one, Kevin Von Erich, who is the only Von Erich still alive. He now resides in Hawaii, and he has his two sons that have been wrestling on the independents on MLW.
They turned breed up of Von Erichs.
The third generation of Von Erichs. But Kevin, he was the second eldest. The majority of his career was working in world-class championship wrestling. He had a lot of feuds with like Chris Adams, the Freebirds, Ric Flair. He was a pretty solid worker. But like I said, the star of the family, really was Kerry, I believe. But Kevin still was. He was.
I'm not trying to cut you off, Piers, but I was just going to ask that.
I think
exact same question.
The breakout star of the.
I thought it was
star of them.
I thought it was
definitely Kerry.
I thought it was David, because I heard he was the crown jewel of the family.
Well, David potentially was, and that's the thing. So let's get through Kevin, because I don't want to overlook Kevin, because I still think Kevin had a really solid wrestling career. He was a very solid worker, in-ring technician. When you're part of the Von Erich,
find a Von Erich that wasn't.
Exactly. He was the guy who essentially sold WCCW footage to Vince McMahon as well, just for those who are wondering. But he's represented the family at WWE events when they've been inducted into the Hall of Fame. But imagine, let's just look at Kevin Von Erich's life. The Von Erich family, for everything that I have seen through the investigation around the Von Erich family, is they were a very close-knit family. They were a very tight family. They were a very loving family. They all grew up on camera. So these guys were babies that were brought up, and everyone knew their name. They were nearly as big as the Beatles in Texas, and they were like the hottest thing going. So, you could imagine this guy, Kevin, who's now, say 60 years old, 60 something years old. And now he's
63, I think.
So he's lost all of his family. All of his brothers have passed, younger and older. And it's just been, like for that sort of mentality, how do you think that would drain someone like him to lose every single one of his brothers, 3 to suicide?
Well, the thing is that, it's hard, bro. If you have a big family like that and you're the last sole survivor, it's heartbreaking. The Bee Gees, the two brothers died, and now there's only one, and now he's, not like fucked up in the head, but dude, you feel like, man, all my brothers are gone. I'm by myself. It's a funny feeling. It's very. I don't have any siblings, but I can understand if I grew up with a bunch of brothers, regardless, or sisters, and then I'm the only one.
Because your mom had you, and she said, "Fuck no, I ain't doing this again."
Well, I can't bring another ugly motherfucker into the world.
That's why your screen is frozen, Piers. Shut the fuck up.
Thanks for the bits.
Thanks for the bits, Marty. But seriously, it's just, I think that's just, I don't know how it feels. Piers, you have a sister, man, she's hot. But she But
Bro, she watches the show, bro. Fuck, her and her husband watch the show. Watch yourself, man.
tell
Yeah,
that
he's
after
right. Me and her both watch this show.
No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, like how many siblings you have? Just one, right, Pierce?
Yeah, I got one younger sister.
And Pierce, and Kevin, you have any?
I have an older brother and 5 younger brothers and one sister.
See, and you guys will know how
Puerto
it
Rican
feels.
family, guys.
I know, but you will know how it feels to.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were the lone survivor, your mind will be just like, just.
And I thank God above, I've never lost one of my siblings, and I never want to. But just before we move on, I'll make this very quick. I can only imagine that even though all of the hardship and every ounce of pain that Kevin has had to live through, losing all of his siblings and even his parents, if there's one good thing that comes out of it, I'm sure it's taught him a sense of don't take a single moment for granted with his kids. Live every moment that you can. Spend every time that you can. Spend every second that you can with the people you love. And if there's any good that comes out of it, we all can sit here and say that, oh, we love spending time with our family. We love seeing our wives. We love seeing our children. We love seeing our parents, all this other stuff. But when you go through something like that, it really teaches you to cherish every moment that you have left because, like you said, brothers younger and older. Just because you're the oldest doesn't mean you're the next one to go. You never know who's next. So you got to cherish every moment you have with them. And from seeing everything that Kevin's been doing and that he's been doing with his sons, I really think he embraces that to the absolute fullest.
Yeah, no, I agree. Kevin also, Angel, you found some interesting information about him that you shared that you and Kevin, share a bit of a common interest. He actually wrestled his first his only appearance in WWF television on January 21st against your trainer, Johnny Rodz.
You're correct. And, that's something I just bumped into. I'm like, holy crap, I didn't know that. I mean, that's pretty interesting, that I didn't even remember he was in WWF during that time. I just never saw the footage. But, like I said, Johnny wrestled everybody. But anyway, here or there. But, Kevin Von Erich, he was an awesome wrestler. I mean, like I said, it's difficult to try to put your mind to it where a guy loses his brother and not go crazy, his brothers, and not go crazy at the end of this, not saying end of his life, but I mean, I just don't know, man. Again, I don't have any siblings. I just don't, I would just go batshit crazy. I probably would eat a gun or something. I really don't know, but that's how I feel right now,
Where's that Jesus statue?
Next on is David Von Erich. So the Yellow Rose of Texas, David Von Erich. He was the guy that they really thought that was going to be the next NWA world champion. They actually earmarked him to be very early on one to beat Ric Flair, but it never happened. He wrestled and teamed with Kevin quite a bit against matches like the Freebirds. He wrestled Harley Race and Ric Flair multiple times for the world championship. Obviously never won it. David passed away on February 10th in 1984 in Tokyo, Japan at the U.S. Embassy. So he was actually found by Bruiser Brody, and the Japanese wrestling promotion, they called the referee who worked for the Von Erichs, and basically from his recollection was, hello, David Von Erich dead. And they're like, what happened? We go to hotel room and find him. Kevin Von Erich even made a statement that he knew Bruiser Brody well. They were close. And he said, Brody was a guy like Fritz Von Erich, very hard-nosed, very, obviously everyone knows the sort of character Bruiser Brody was, very, very hard, very intense. He said Brody was breaking down, saying, I'm sorry. However, there is the report and the rumor around David's death that it was an accidental overdose, and that when Brody arrived to the hotel room, he discovered, prescription medication all over the place. He called the ambulance, took all the medication, and flushed it, because obviously being in a place like Japan and Asian countries, those are the places you don't want to get caught with narcotics, whether it be prescription or not. And if you've had an overdose, that would be, there's going to be big penalties for that. So Brody flushed it, he cleaned it, allegedly.
No, allegedly.
Not only that, but allegedly. Not only that, but if you're close, like Piers, if it's me and you, man. I mean, or even me and Angel, the three of us have become really close over the last 22 episodes we've done, and even getting to know each other before that. Piers, if you walked into a hotel room and I was laid out, prescription drugs everywhere, empty alcohol bottles everywhere, and you knew Ashley was going to be coming, or you were going to have to make that phone call to Ashley, or there was going to be media everywhere because, we're big wrestling stars. You as my friend, is that the image you would want the media to capture? My body laying there with prescription pill bottles and alcohol bottles, or whatever the case may be. Is that how you would want me to be remembered?
No.
So even as his friend, not just to say where they were, but just the situation that surrounds it. This is wrestling royalty. At the time, the Von Erichs, wrestling royalty, the biggest things in Texas for professional wrestling right now. And you have, media is going to be all over this. You're going to have to make that phone call to the family. That he still has brothers, mother, father, everyone back at home. And whatever comes out of this hotel room where he is laying, that's how his legacy is going to be remembered. And you just said, Bruiser Brody was very well documented that he was close to the Von Erich family. Allegedly, even I would have got rid of that stuff, because that's not how I want my friend to be remembered. That's not how I want his family to remember him. It's a hard situation, because as a police officer, you're told not to mess with the crime scene. But as your friend, I could not allow you to be remembered that way.
Well, I mean, in the professional wrestling business, I understand. I agree with you, Kevin. But the thing is, with the boys, it's a fraternity. You try to cover the boys as much as possible. So, I mean, if there was something like that did occur, he was just protecting the business and the boys.
Wasn't the same thing said about Eddie? Like somebody dressed him or something like that?
I can't recall.
I can't remember that. But look,
it may not have been Eddie.
Not to get off topic, but I always wondered that about the Eddie Guerrero case.
Well, but
I'm not getting off. I know we just covered it, and I promise I'm not trying to get off topic. But I think somebody said like Chavo, or somebody dressed him or something like that. I don't know.
All I remember is him reading that he was in his underwear and Chavo was there. So I really can't remember if they dressed him up during that time. So, but this happened. I mean, of course, this incident happened, I think, on February 10th, 1984. And
Correct.
what was the wrestling company?
All Japan Pro Wrestling. So he was over there for All Japan. Ric Flair mentioned in his autobiography that Bruiser Brody, who was one of Von Erich's close friends, removed the evidence, and the Von Erichs, however, claimed that it was caused by his passing, was caused by ruptured intestines, and basically bled out to death. Basically he bled himself to death internally. That's what. Now,
story has it that, and again, this is a story, rumor, whatever, that David was suffering from a form of bulimia as well.
Yeah.
So I heard that story, but I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, there's so many rumors that even heart attacks and drug overdose and bulimia. Well, we don't know where.
Bro, let me ask you this. Sorry, Kev.
I was just gonna say, bulimia, not that far of a stretch, and I wasn't there. I don't know. I can't speak to it. But if I'm sitting here, it's been very. Look,
Does that cause complications though for something that
Absolutely. And
Oh,
for that?
when you have the image to uphold like the Von Erichs did, they were very young, strapping, good-looking individuals. Like that was one of the things that is always said about the Von Erichs. They were young, good-looking guys, and that's why they were so likable and be able to be booked, and why they were so successful at the at in this time period. They were the teenage heartthrobs. They were what every girl wanted, what every guy wanted to be, athletic as hell, jacked to the moon and back, and they kind of had that image to uphold. So I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying he didn't. I am saying it is believable. And yes, bulimia does cause um, a lot of internal injuries, such as internal bleeding, because when you are
Yeah,
jamming an ink pen or a toothbrush to the back of your throat trying to cause yourself to throw up, that constant dry heaving and the
the pull.
the acidic fluid in your stomach, just like with acid reflux, whenever it comes up your throat, it eats away at your throat every single time you do it. So if you're doing that 3 times a day over the course of, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many years, it's gonna start to wear down your esophagus, your stomach
mm.
lining, absolutely everything.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. I mean, because like I said, I'm reading here that it's a ruptured intestine, and I could see that not coexisting, but being the cause of the bulimia being a factor of that. But again, I ain't no doctor, so I don't know.
But you know what, not the funny thing, but the thing is as well, prior to him coming back from Japan after this tour, he was penciled to win the NWA World Title. He was going to beat Ric Flair for it, and like this guy just had, obviously there was star written all over this guy. Like he definitely was a star. He definitely had talent, but to go out like that, man, that's a pretty rough way to go, man. And
Well, sorry, I was
but
going to say that. Go ahead.
sorry, no, you go.
No, I was just reading here that while Bill Irwin was the one that mentioned it in one of the podcasts in 2017 that he had an issue with bulimia. So I was just bringing that up. Okay, you were saying?
Well, that's the thing, man. He the alleged drug overdose and everything else will be like that's alleged. Like what we have to go off is the toxology report and what was actually factually given that we can actually find. And I think that that's exactly what the family would have gone off as well when David passed. They'd go off the toxology report. They wouldn't be going off rumor, for example. Oh, it was a rumor, it was a drug overdose. And if Brody found it like that, obviously he just wanted to make sure that there was not going to be any drama for him, but also there was not going to be any any media. Like it could have been in many different ways, but as I said, we just have to go off what the toxology report said of his passing, and his passing said it was the ruptured intestine.
Oh, I mean, it was documented in the report of death provided by the U.S. Embassy in Japan. So, I mean, that's what their determination was in regards to his death. I mean, so if that was the case, and again, even though he was the Yellow Rose of Texas, he was popular. I mean, they're not going to fabricate or lie and say, no, it wasn't a drug overdose. If there was something in the system, they would have said, hey, it was because of the intestinal issue, plus there was substances in his system. So, I mean, I believe that they found out the cause, and that was the cause. There was no heart attack because they would have said that as well. Everybody was just speculating at the time before the report came out, because he was young and healthy and all this stuff.
Yeah. And look, let's go off into the the next Von Erich, who subsequently enough, a couple months after David's passing, there was a tribute show held in David's honor, and his younger brother Kerry Von Erich won the NWA World Heavyweight Championship
the blue chip of the Von Erichs, boys. The
Yeah.
absolute blue chip of the Von Erichs. Had everything you ever want. Piers, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
But I just got to say this little fun fact about Kerry Von Erich. In my opinion, the best performer of them all, the blue chip of the Von Erich family, Guys, if you love old school wrestling and you don't know who the Von Erichs are, I encourage you to go watch some Von Erich matches. But up until recently, did you know that the NWA 10 pounds of gold had a very specific marking on it?
Oh,
Nope.
It was scratched into the main plate of the 10 pounds of gold. Initials KVE. Kerry Von Erich scratched his initials into the main plate of Sweet Charlotte, the 10 pounds of gold, baby.
Jesus.
And he was forever tied to that belt. Ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, Kerry Von Erich was the blue chip of the Von Erich family. Rest in peace, Kerry Von Erich. Did amazing things for pro wrestling. Peers, let's break it down.
Break it down.
So, bow, 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 bow.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there. I apologize.
No, dude. By all, so much like his brothers, he spent a majority of his career in the World Class Championship Wrestling. He went across many other federations and promotions over the time. He was a guy who wrestled in WWE. As I mentioned before, he won the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship at a David Von Erich tribute show for his brother. He lost the belt 3 weeks later back to Flair. So obviously, it was a quick flip of the belt for him. He made his way into the WWF as the Texas Tornado, where he won the WWF Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam in 1990. And then went on to obviously Global Wrestling Federation. So Kerry Von Erich, he also, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he have I think it was his right foot was amputated, like he was an amputee?
No, it wasn't his right. I mean, he missed the first part. He was missing the front part of his toes because of a motorcycle accident. And this occurred I think in June 4th of 1986. One thing about Kerry Von Erich, you got to commend the guy, man. The guy wrestling, not missing a step, and wrestling in the ring with missing toes. But I know he had a special type of boot that had a filler in the front, so it gave him that stability. So, but again, I don't know if anybody knew how many people knew about his injury or his disability, but the guy didn't look like he had any problems. He was moving around that ring like he still had his feet together. But yeah, man, he lost it in a motorcycle accident, dislocated his hip, and then lost his toes, like the front part of his feet. His foot.
Well, also Kerry Von Erich, a little well-known fact. Do you guys remember TNA, The Beautiful People?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Back in yep. So his daughter Lacey Von Erich was actually in TNA, I think around 2007 to 2010, and Kerry obviously he comes from that great wrestling family. He had two daughters, Holly and Lacey, and on February 18th, 1993, Kerry took his own life. He used a 44 caliber gunshot to the heart, and on his father's ranch in Texas, Fritz actually put a marker in the ground of the spot where Kerry had shot himself. Little bit also known about that. Bret Hart has made a comment that Kerry had told him months before about his plans to take his life, that he wanted to follow his late brothers, and they were calling him. His marriage had fallen apart, and his death was inevitable, and he thought his death was inevitable. Man,
he was definitely dealing with his fair share of demons, as we all do. His stronger than most, losing his brothers, marriage falling apart,
addicted to pain pills.
Absolutely. And, just really quick, because you guys didn't know this, if I may, for just 1 second. So right here, if you look at the grapplers, this is the actual ring used 10 pounds of gold. If you look at the grapplers, just above the grapplers, you see those faint scratches in the belt.
Yeah.
That is the initials of Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah. Right.
That's pretty cool, man. Oh,
that was on the belt all the way, if I remember correctly, which I'm pretty sure because I just watched the 10 pounds of gold documentary. It was on the belt all the way up until they switched it out with Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis dwarfed the belt because he's such a bigger guy. and they made what's known as the Aldous belt now, which is a new version of the 10 pounds of gold. But this one right here that Tim Storm had going into CZW Cage of Death when he defended against Nick Aldis had the Kerry Von Erich signature on it.
That's some crazy ass shit.
Now,
That's crazy that they had the same belt for that long without changing it up.
It is the longest reigning untempered with belt in pro wrestling. The 10 pounds of gold, that belt right there that his name was scratched into, was the longest reigning championship in pro wrestling to never be changed.
And where is that belt at now?
Saying changing the belt design, but like actually replacing the physical belt itself.
No, that's what I'm saying. Without replacing it, without changing it, without nothing. They used it from this time to this time. I believe that belt resides with Billy Corgan. I could be wrong, but when Billy Corgan bought the NWA, basically all he bought was the name and a belt because they didn't have a steady promotion at the time. And I know I'm getting off topic, but just to answer Angel's question, when Billy Corgan came in and took over, he literally bought the name, the NWA, and he bought the NWA championship. That was it. That's all there was. So when he decided he was going to build his promotion around Nick Aldis and Tim Storm's no slouch either. Tim Storm is in very great shape. Yeah. So he wanted a bigger belt to match the modern day wrestlers, the bigger body guys. And he had a new belt made, which is now referred to the Aldis belt. And that replaced this one. I don't know if it resides with Billy, but I would assume it does because Billy bought the belt.
I mean, it's a priceless belt. I mean, that has a lot of history to it, and I mean, it's valuable. But hey, just to let you know, I mean, we will stay on topic. But the thing was, Kerry was on probation for drug cases, and he was going to be indicted on a second case.
Several cases.
Wow. Yeah, but he was going to be indicted. And it was going to be an extensive, long jail time. So, I heard he was concerned about that. He was really, regardless of the death of his brothers and all the things he was going through, that's also another thing that might have led to his suicide as well. Like he knew his career was going to go down the shitters.
I mean, when you live your life on top of the world, and like Pierce said, they were the pride of Texas, and Kerry was the blue chip. This is just my opinion. The blue chip of that family. When you have the highest of the highest families in Texas, pro wrestling at the time, and they're here, and then Kerry is clearly here, everyone else is right here. There is an expectancy to carry the family, be that role model, be that go-to guy, the one who holds it all together, does everything right, never messes up, all that added pressure. And then you're used to living this extravagant lifestyle of being a pro wrestler, of being one of the royal families in pro wrestling, and you're constantly going through drug problems, you're constantly getting arrested, constantly having DUIs, constantly fucking up.
Yeah.
And then you realize just a one full calendar year before, you could have traveled to anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world to go wrestle. And now you have these pending cases and your freedom is literally gone. And it's not just, hey, let me go get booked in Japan next week. Let me go tear it up over at this territory. Let me go over to this territory. Let me go over here. You can't do that anymore. You have charges pending. You ain't leaving. He knew his freedom was coming to an end. I'm not saying that's why he did it. Like Pierce said, it was very well documented from Bret Hart that he had expressed this to him earlier. But those have got to be some kind of contributing factors.
Yeah, it's pressure. I mean, you have pressure on top of pressure on, like it was just mounting up on them. So
like everybody's here, your family is here, and you as the blue chip are here. That pressure is that's an enormous amount of pressure.
Let me ask you guys this, right? So Bret Hart stated that Kerry told him what he was going to do. Why the fuck would Bret Hart be now telling people after the fact? Kevin, if someone came to you, someone that you worked with, a colleague, not necessarily a friend or someone close to you, but say, for example, a work colleague of yours, Kevin or Angel, comes up to you and says, hey, man, shit's pretty bad right now for me in life. I'm going to kill myself. This is how I'm going to do it. Would you just sit there and go, all right, man, you have fun if you need a hand?
No, man, but you got to look at it like this. I mean, I've been in situations.
You got to look at the time they were in.
Yeah, and also Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Angel. Obviously, no. If you or Angel came to me and said, "Hey, this is what's going on," Angel's not that far from me. If Angel's talking like that, I'm most likely going to show up at his front door and slap the taste out of his mouth and get Missy to reel him back in. You, on the other hand, a little bit further of a drive for me, but I'd make it in a heartbeat. But I think we have to go to the time we were in. We just covered this with the speak out movement.
Yeah.
Now it's acceptable to come out and say these things. Now it is socially acceptable for somebody to say, I need help. This happened to me. I'm going through this. This is where my mental health is at. Let's just take that one topic, mental health, and look at the strides mental health has made from that time to now. We understand it more. We know how to help more. There's more counseling. There's more avenues to get help. Back then, that was your only help, was telling somebody in the locker room, hey, this is what's going on. Please fucking save my life. But at the time, nobody knew how to deal with mental health. So I don't think it was necessarily, he wanted to hold it in. Or I think back in that time, it had a lot to do with people didn't know how to help people with mental health.
But the thing is, from a professional wrestling standpoint, you got to remember, you don't stooge out the boys. And the thing is that if I was having a conversation with somebody and I was like, and again, you're not going to say, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to blow my brains off. I'm going to drive my car off a cliff. If you're going to have a conversation after a couple of drinks and say, man, I'm just, life, I don't know, everything's difficult. And you're expressing your feelings and you say, man, I just don't want to live anymore. And then your buddy's going to go, brother, you have a lot to live for, you're just being emotional. You just got to relax. Things are going to get better. And you're trying to consult that guy. And you're trying to give him the best advice. And then at the end, he goes, you know what, brother, you're right, man. I don't know what I've been thinking, man. You're right. And then you hug and you go, brother, I'm here for you. If you need me, please reach out to me. I mean, this is the conversation. I'm not saying all wrestlers will have, but the guys don't want to show weakness. Guys don't want to, have, you run to his wife or run to the police and put
even outside of wrestling. That's typically how the conversation goes.
Yeah.
And when it ends that way, you feel like you've kind of broke through to this person. Like you've given them that avenue of help. So you kind of feel good if the conversation ends that way. If you say, hey, I'm here for you, man. If you need anything, I got you. You're like, okay, he's going to reach out to me if he needs something.
And the conversation very well could have gone down like that. I'm just saying, why wasn't it raised? You know what I mean? Like,
but the thing is, you don't stooge out the boys, because the thing is, that's the code. If I told DeVito, and I trust DeVito, I trust Homicide, and I confided in them in something that I wanted to do or I was thinking about doing, and then it was kind of resolved or whatever, and then he goes and tells somebody, you stooged me out. Why did you stooge me out? I trusted you. Now I have heat with him.
Yeah, and that's another big thing is, they were if this happened between, me and you, Piers, and you talk to me about this situation, and then you trust me with this very vulnerable, very sensitive piece of information, and then the next thing you know, I went and told 10 other people, how likely are you to come to me if you actually do need help now?
Yeah, I can understand that, but for me, it's like, if someone
and I completely get where you're coming from too.
And saying, hey, I'm going to kill myself. This is how thought out that I have gone through it. Would that not put you on a thing saying, hey, this is fucking above me. This guy needs some serious help. And I get the time frames and I get not wanting to stooge out the boys, but what part does it come down to? Would you don't stooge out the boys to save his life? Because I fucking would in a heartbeat.
And that's one thing that, going through law enforcement and military, and I'm sure Angel knows this just as much, and Piers, the line of work you've kind of dedicated your life to, you probably know this as well. There is a major difference between somebody saying, I want to hurt myself or I want to end my life. Whenever that happens and the police are called in, one of the first questions we ask, very sensitively, very easily, and very gingerly, do we ease into this? But one of the things you always have to ask is, have you thought about how you're going to do it? Because that completely changes everything. Saying you want to do something and actually coming up with a plan to do it changes everything. So I understand, Piers, I'm on your side with this 100%. No. I understand not wanting to stooge out the boys. I understand wanting to protect the sensitive information you were trusted with. I understand wanting to look out for your friend. But when it comes down to you now have a plan to do it, I need to be the wrinkle in that plan. I need to change that plan. I need to be the one that causes that plan to fail.
Yeah. 100%. And
If you message me and go, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot myself in the heart on my father's ranch," now I'm calling Ashley and I'm saying, "Hey, get every gun out of your house."
Yeah. don't go to your father-in-law's. But you know,
the thing is this. If Kerry was, it was with Brett and they were having this conversation over a couple beers, and Kerry just said, "Hey, I made a decision to join my brothers. I'm just waiting for God to tell me when." That's not telling, and you're like, "What, brother? Come on, man. You got to hold." I mean, this is not. I mean, from what I've been reading, is that he's not saying like, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it." He's just saying, "I'm just waiting for God to tell me when." In that conversation, I would have been like, "Bro, you have your whole world to live for. You're a superstar. You're the blue chip athlete, and you have this conversation."
That's a very different conversation than if I come to you and go, "Hey, on October the 13th, 2020, I'm going to go out in my backyard. I'm going to take my Glock 23. I'm going to hold it to my chest. I'm going to load one round. I'm going to put the bullet in, and I'm going to lay in this exact grid coordinate is where my body's going to fall." That's a very much different conversation than if I go, "I'm waiting on God to tell me when."
Hey, Pierce, if I went up to you and said, "Hey," and I gave you a Glock, and I go, "Hey, what do you think? I just got this." And you go, "Man, this is nice, man. How much you paid for it? Blah, 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 whatever." And then I go, "That's the gun I'm going to kill myself with. I even bought some special bullets. Look, because I don't want to." Then right there, you're like, "Holy shit, brother." I mean, it puts it in a different.
I ain't giving you that gun back, bro.
I'll take it.
But you know what I'm saying? But I think the conversation, because when you're gonna, and again, please, I'm not trying to be like, say like this is how everybody says it, but if it was me, you don't try to be like, "Hey, this is how I'm gonna do it." You kind of subtly go, "Well, I don't know, man. Life is," you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to show weakness. You don't want to show that, I don't know. It's just, you're not going to put it out there. You're just going to kind of hint into it. And that's what he was doing. He was kind of hinting in it, but then Brett was just like, "Bro, he consulted him." So the guy had a lot of demons. The guy was, knew that I'm saying his time was ending because of the case, the indictment that he was going to get charged with in regards to the painkillers and all the drug paraphernalia, whatever he was being charged for. But he just had a lot of demons, especially losing all his brothers, especially probably the stress of being the blue chip athlete, trying to hold himself in a high standard, to try to keep himself together, to be the patriarch of the family. And then, all of a sudden he loses a foot, his hip is bothering him. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. Again, I'm not saying that what he did was right. It's just that when you're a wrestler, and again, I'm not saying you guys don't know, it's just that you have it all together. You have to be the rock, the star.
You're built to be this larger than life, bulletproof, real life version of a superhero.
And you have to
live it. You
can't
show emotion. You can't show that you're hurting. You can't show that you're going through mental health issues. You have to be that same guy on TV. Like, every wrestler wants to come off to their fans and look like Taz, that psycho, super talented, gonna destroy you, eat nails for breakfast kind of guy. You don't want to be that guy that's crying in the locker room and asking for help and saying, "What do? I need this, I need that." So I get it. You have an image to uphold.
And Kevin,
especially in that time period.
You know what's funny? Let me tell you a good story. And I don't want to put the wrestler on blast, but we were doing a reunion show, an ECW reunion show, and one of the boys was just drinking and just gimmick because he had a family problems. His wife.
I know this story,
but I'm not saying names.
Anyway. I know exactly who you're talking about.
And in the locker room, they were like, "Dude, what the fuck happened in the match? You fucked up. This is what's gonna happen." And he broke down crying. And he's like, "Man, I'm sorry. My wife is leaving me." All this crazy shit. And they looked at him like, and they looked at me like, like, because, you're a wrestler. And he broke down. And again, I'm not saying, it's just they looked at me and I'm just like, "Oh, here we go."
You're talking about the Kingpin Angel Medina, aren't you?
No, it wasn't me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, but he broke down, man. He really broke down because his life was not in the shambles. His wife was leaving him. He was just having hard times, and and then he broke down. And then the boys just looked at him like, "What the," And then he goes, and then he kind of patronized them like, "It's okay, man. It's okay." And he just kind of looked at us like, Jesus fuck. See, but do you see that? I mean, when you finally break down, when you finally at your wit's end, and you just couldn't hold it in, the boys just like, look at this motherfucker, and that's what you don't want to be looked at.
It makes you not want to ask for help,
and you don't say shit, and you keep it together. You go in the bathroom, you cry, but you don't show emotions. You do not break down unless it's your wife or your kid. Yeah, that's a different story. But you always have to be put together in when you're around the boys. That's it.
So let's go into the next Von Erich, Mike. So Mike Von Erich was the fifth son of Fritz. Very solid guy, man. He was a very big dude. Basically on April 12th, 1987, he left a suicide note for his family, then went to a lake where he drank alcohol and overdosed on sleeping aid Placidol. A few days before his death, Mike was arrested after a DWI, so drinking while intoxicated. His body was found 4 days later and buried at Grove Hill Memorial Park in Dallas. So Placidol, I think, is now a drug that has been has been cancelled out. But basically what it is, it's a sleeping aid, like a sleeping tablet. So it was mainly in capsules, reducing sleep latency. And I think they discontinued the product in 1999, which was then replaced by benzodiazepine. I probably butchered the name of that. Because they've seen people and family members and humans go through and abuse that drug, which was Placidol. So, again, a guy that, had lost a brother.
This is at that stage, I'm David. Sorry for.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm not being insensitive to this topic. As you can tell, this is a very different episode than we normally do. There hasn't been quite as many jokes. There hasn't been quite as many banter, quite as much back and forth. That's really killing Angel, by the way.
Yeah, trust me, it is.
But whenever we tackle something like this, we want to be as respectful as possible.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, I would be remiss if I didn't make my opinion known. I do not sympathize with suicide. I sympathize for the family. Kevin Von Erich has my 100% total sympathy, my deepest condolences, every bit of it. But for the person who actually takes their life, I feel nothing for. That is just my opinion. If the viewers get mad at me, it's just my opinion, guys. But I do feel a little empathy for Mike. And the reason I say that is because he was the last, aside from Kevin, he was the last one. You just had what happened to Carrie. Now, all the eyes are on you. So if, like I've said earlier, everybody's here. The Von Erichs are here. Carrie was here. You're the last one. You are expected to surpass Carrie. And Carrie did everything. He was the NWA champion. Up until recent memory, his name was engraved on the belt. Carrie was the cornerstone, the blue chip, the standard. And now you are expected to go out there and perform as good, if not better than Carrie, which was no easy task. Let's not take that away from Carrie. So we talk about the pressure Carrie was under. I would go out on a limb and say Mike was under even more.
It was the other way around. I think you meant David. David died. Mike died after David. I think because Carrie died in 93. Mike died in 87. It was just a few years prior. I think it was David that died. Sorry,
Mike died last, correct?
No, he died in 87.
Okay.
So
Yep, you're right.
84, 87 Kerry. Sorry, Kevin. I
thought it was David, but then again, Angel said we were going to go in order, so I thought this was the last. I knew I should have went with my own instinct on this.
No, we still got one more brother to go as well.
There's another blooper reel.
There is another blooper reel, but no, it was David Von Erich, Mike Van Erich.
Yes.
And then Kerry. So we are going to go on now to Chris Von Erich. So he was the youngest of the Von Erich family. He was also a lot smaller than all of them. He was 5
Is that the one with
four.
the brittle bones? I think he had like some
That's
very
correct.
bad.
Yeah, he had asthma, extreme brittle bones, and was prone to breaking bones. He was never able to reach the success that his father and his brothers did in the wrestling business. He made many attempts to succeed in the squared circle due to an incredible love of wrestling. Which I'm sure we can all sort of attest to, but he kept going despite numerous injuries. He managed one major feud with Percy Pringle in the USWA/World Class, which, if those who don't know, Percy Pringle is Paul Bearer.
Oh, yes, Percy Pringle.
He also wrestled in tag matches with Chris Adams against Percy Pringle and Steve Austin, but due to not being able to succeed in the wrestling business, Chris became severely depressed and frustrated, completely heartbroken over the loss of his brother Mike in 91. In 18 days before his 22nd birthday, he committed suicide via gunshot wound to the head. Again, we're talking about a man who's taking his own life. And to have brothers that have done this, I think that we really need to look at the complete situation here, gentlemen, which is, this is, what did these guys go through? What were they mentally at? Because to be at the stage to take your life, it's not just being frustrated with what's happening in the world, what's one or two things happening. To actually go through with the act and attempt to take your life and successfully take your life.
Well, I think
what did they go through? And I know that the public attraction to them and everything like that, and being under the spotlight would get to many people.
And I think that's exactly what it is, man. I think when you look at all of them, there's one common there's one common denominator in every one of these. And I could be completely wrong. Like we said when we started this show is brought from 3 different opinions. Unless it has something to do with something that Angel actually interacted with, all of these are just our opinions. And what my opinion is that we've said it once, we've said it a million times. The Von Erichs were wrestling royalty. And when you look at each one of them, they were going through something allegedly or well-known. Like, we have the alleged drugs in Japan, but we have the very well-known cases with Kerry, whether it be alleged or whether it be public knowledge. Each one of them, aside from Kevin, who is the only one still alive, was going through something that they were meant to hold this image, and they were now dropping from that. They were no longer sustaining that blue chip family, that wrestling royalty family. They kind of peaked where they were, and they were just coasting at this point. So they all did very well as they were coming up, trying to hit the mountaintop. But once they stopped climbing and they just started cruising, that's when we started to see some issues come through, in my opinion. So I think it was the pressure of being Texas's favorite family.
But do you think that there could have been more to it? I mean,
absolutely. We can sit here and speculate for days.
Look, I don't want to throw out, false accusations here or anything, but
no, that's why I want to make it very clear that this is just my opinion.
So my question is this. We've covered, the abuse in pro wrestling in the past, and wrestlers that have suffered physical, sexual, emotional abuse from people within the business. Fritz was a wrestler and his boys were second generation wrestlers. Could there have been something that have happened which has traumatized these boys or traumatized these men to the point that they couldn't have done? Could they have gone through some sort of trauma and not known how to deal with it, not known how to go to Fritz and say, Dad, something happened. This person has done this to me when I was this age. You know what I mean? Like, no. I'm not saying there was any child abuse or sexual abuse there, but I'm just saying you can't rule it out when three siblings commit suicide in the span of a decade, almost 3 in 10 years. Like I don't know. You kind of have to ask that question.
Well, I mean, the problem is this. I mean, the thing about I'm looking at is, look, Fritz von Erich was a hard-nosed, old-school wrestler who, again, when I said in the beginning of the show, didn't really show too much emotions because he had it all together. Now, the thing is that you have to hold yourself to a high standard when you're dealing with your dad. I think he was the patriarch of the family. You did what Dad told you to do, and they didn't really have much. Again, like Kevin said, I'm just speculating. I just feel they didn't have much say in what they input in their career. They just had to do what the dad said, just like not the Beatles, just
Michael
like Michael Jackson, the Beach Boys. The dad was in control of the family, and maybe I'm just making this up here, but maybe one of the guys wanted to be, a police officer or a doctor, and they're, no, you're going to be a fucking wrestler because you're a Von Erich and the family is going to keep pushing forward, and he pushed them in that direction. Again, I'm not saying that's what it is, but when your dad is the main guy and you do what your dad tells you to do, and if you get out of line, because at the end of his life, I mean, even when he walked in on his dad and his dad had the cancer was going to his brain, he fucking stuck the gun in his son's face, and told him that I forgot. I don't want to misquote it, but I think it was what he told Kevin, like, it was should have been you or some shit like that, or if I can't remember. It's been a while since I read the article, but I mean, the guy was a hard-nosed guy.
You can't read.
I use the teleprompter, but
But that's the thing, man. Like, for three guys to go out like that, and you mentioned like the Beach Boys and the Jacksons and stuff like that. I kind of look at the Von Erichs like the Beach Boys of pro wrestling. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like a very similar story.
Well, think about it. I mean, in the Beach Boys, one guy threw himself and drowned. The other guy caught went batshit crazy. The lead singer, the lead writer, or whatever, he went crazy. I mean, it's just the pressure. It was just. The pressure of trying to, do what your dad, what your dad wants you to be. Not be your own person. You're not being your own person. You're doing what your dad says. That's just how I see it. I just think Fritz was just really like the badass, the head guy, and you had to do what Dad said. If not, you can get your mouth slapped in. I mean, Kevin, you don't think that?
No, I absolutely do. Whenever, and it's like I was saying earlier, and like I said, guys, just my opinion. I think that they had a very high expectation of what they should be. I feel like their choice was not saying that they didn't want to wrestle, but I feel like if you grew up in that family and you said, Dad, I want to be a taxi driver for the rest of my life. Dad, I want to go work at Walmart for the rest of my life. Dad, I want to be I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever the case may be. I want to be a shoe shiner, whatever the case may be. Unless you said I want to be a pro wrestler. Now, would you say you wanted to be again? Oh, Dad, I want to shine shoes for a living. What'd you say you wanted to be again? I think I want to be a pro wrestler. Yeah, you do. So, not saying that's the case, but just my opinion. I think there was a lot of pressure. A lot of their decisions were made for them. Like you take, if I am in a wrestling ring, and I am literally breaking my bones every time I go in there, probably not gonna go back. But for some reason, the youngest boy couldn't stay away.
I agree. So, guys, look, let's start wrapping it up.
Fuck you. Kevin, I wasn't going to say nothing, motherfucker. That's okay. Anyway.
Well, I was going to wrap it up for final thoughts. But...
No, Angel? Motherfucker. Nah, it's all right. No, I was just going to say
Angel-
something quick. I had a friend of mine who's from a military family, and he said his dad was, hardcore military guy, and he pushed his kids. All of them were going to be, Marines. One guy wanted to go into the Air Force, and his dad's like, "Fuck you! You ain't going to the Air Force. This family here goes," and he had to join. Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of the same thing. That family didn't kill themselves or anything, but it was like you're going to be this, and this is what you're going to be. You're not diverting the tradition, and that's which was nothing wrong. He had a successful career, but it's just he wanted to go to the Air Force.
And what are your final thoughts on the Von Erichs, Angel?
It's it's no pun intended. It is a tragedy. It's a family that had a lot, but a lot to lose, and it's the wrestling royalty, but we will never know what was going through their minds for what they did to themselves, meaning suicide, why things happened the way it did. And Kevin is the last one. God bless him that he has the strength to continue forward. If he found God, if he's in the mountains of Hawaii and just eating pineapples and walking barefoot I've seen a video where he's walking barefoot in the tree limbs, and that's and he's spiritual. God bless him, man, because that is hard. That is hard. And I'd be overprotective with my kids because you're like, man, is this going to be the second, third generation of issues? So you try to teach them like, no, if you don't want to be a wrestler, it's fine. It's what you want to do, trying to make their life happy. And it looks like he has done that. They made that choice of being pro wrestlers without any pressure. And he just wants to break that curse. If there was a curse of that, a Von Erich curse. But, I just wish him the best of luck and, and a long life.
Over to you, Kev.
Like I said earlier, guys, if you're a fan of old school pro wrestling storytelling, pick a body part and really dissect your opponent and the way things used to be, and you haven't seen a Von Erich match, I strongly encourage you go back, watch some world-class wrestling, watch the Von Erichs, get to know their body of work. You'll understand why this was the one of the blue chip families in pro wrestling. You're going to be entertained. You're going to see professional wrestling done properly. In my opinion, I'm an old school kind of fan. So I strongly encourage you to do that if you don't know the family we're talking about. Like I said earlier, Kevin being the only surviving sibling, the things he's been able to do, the way he's been able to move on with his life and find some peace and some serenity and really help his kids out with his career or with their careers is nothing short of amazing. And like Angel said, we speculate that they were kind of forced into pro wrestling. If that was the case, I hope he learned from his father's mistakes. If that happened, I'm not saying it did, but if that was the case, I hope he learned from his father's mistake. And, I honestly believe that Kevin is supporting his children in whatever they want to do. A little backstory. Piers and I both run a interview show. We both had talks with Kevin Von Erich. When Piers reached out to Kevin, Kevin said, I would love to help get my kids booked in Australia. He didn't message Piers talking about, oh, I want to make my name relevant. I want to get on the Australian platform. I want to be known in Australia. His response was, I want to help my kids. So that really speaks a lot about his character to me anyway. But ladies and gentlemen, this family is exactly what this show was meant for. There's no better fitting story. When you think of wrestling with tragedy, you think of the Von Erichs. It's one of the first topics we thought of. I'm glad we were finally able to do this episode. I couldn't think of two more knowledgeable people to do this with. And like I said, guys, we wanted to be as respectful as we could when we touch topics like this. So coming up next week in a part 2 of one of the episodes we've already done, you're going to get the old Angel back, and we're going to be fucking with Piers again. But yeah, guys, check out some world-class wrestling.
Also, like Kevin always says at the end of the show, when we talk about shows like this, these topics, if you do have any issues, if you do have any thoughts of suicide, please reach out to your suicide hotline. Get help. Please do not hold that in.
Reach out to one of us if you need to.
And
Don't reach out to
help you
Pierce.
find the help that you need.
Don't reach out to Pierce because I won't even let him mow my grass. No, but seriously, get help. Reach out. There's people out there that care for you, and we care for you. As you know, you are our fans. So if you do need help, please reach out to us if you do need some assistance.
Absolutely.
Piers, you want to send us home, bud?
Absolutely, guys. Once again, we are sponsored by Erich Designs. If you want to get yourself a custom cup or tumbler or hoodie or t-shirt or keychain, head over to Erich Designs. They're the ones that you see all these great wrestling memorabilia and paraphernalia. She also does other stuff which isn't pro wrestling designs as well, which you will go and check out all of her designs over at Erich Designs on Facebook, and you will be very much impressed. Our next sponsor is Wasif.
Speaking of the NWA, I've got a WASF championship belt right behind me. The NWA United States Championship.
That's it. We're going to have to get WASF championship belts to make a Wrestling with Tragedy belt, I feel. But guys, if you want a championship belt, you can head over to WASF Championship Belts on Facebook. You can find the group over there. You get an amazing belt at an amazing price. There are payment plans available. You can contact Kevin or myself, and we'll be able to.
Sales go through the two of us. I don't want to be a downer. I don't want to be a dick. But all sales, all business transactions go through Piers or myself.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And also, I just wanted to make special mention to the Cicadas who provide their song for us for our intro, Restriction. It is an amazing song. Thank you, boys, for helping us out to give our show a little bit of extra flavor. But guys, till next week, I'm Piers Austin. This is Kevin Rodriguez, a.k.a. the Juan Strowman Taco Eater and the Kingpin, former ECW Original Angel, motherfucking Medina. See you.